Le Nissan Kick-Play 2025 a beaucoup de plus. Apple CarPlay intégré pour jouer vos tunes préférées, des fonctions avancées de sécurité, un rendement énergétique remarquable, puis même la petite odeur de char neuf qu'on aime tant. Tout ça en plus pour moins. Le Nissan Kick Play 2025 est le véhicule neuf le plus abordable au Québec. Achetez-le à partir de seulement 22 774 $, incluant un rabais à l'achat comptant de 2 600 $. Profitez de cette offre avantageuse chez votre concessionnaire dès maintenant. Jusqu'au 2 mars, des conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
Welcome back to the Elias Macco Show. It's 11:36 right here on CJAD 800. Quebec's manufacturers and exporters say the province's economy is losing out big time. According to them, the labor shortage in the province has meant about $7 billion lost in the manufacturing sector last year alone. And the problem appears to be getting worse. There were 32,000 job openings in Quebec's manufacturing sector in the second quarter, and this is up from just over 30,000 3 months ago. And there is an urgency, as many companies say they'll look to move their activities abroad. With more on this, we go to Véronique Proulx, CEO of the Manufacturers and Exporters of Quebec. Hi, Véronique. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So let's get to the $7 billion. First things first. This is the number that's being thrown out there. How do you calculate that? How do you say we're losing out, this economy, our economy is losing out on $7 billion?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. And $7 billion is the amount that manufacturers left on the table over the past year. And that's manufacturing only because we can't find the workers that we need. So the first thing, we have $4 billion that is due to refused contracts and accumulated delays. So necessarily, when you don't have enough workers already to fulfill your demand, well, you can't look for new contracts. You're refusing contracts on international markets. And because you're accumulating delays, this has a cost because you're delivering late, of course. So there is financial penalties. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is new this year, I would say. This is the second year we've been doing the survey, and it's the first time that we've been able to dig into this. $3 billion result in losses from $3 billion are related to delayed or canceled investments. So we already knew that when manufacturers don't have access to the workers they need, sometimes we'll postpone some investments. But this year we were able to say that $3 billion over the past year have been put aside. Because if you're looking to invest $1 million, $2 million, or $5 million to automate your production line, and you're not sure you're going to find the workers you need to be able to make it work, are you really going to invest? So clearly manufacturers are saying, we're going to put this aside because we're not sure we'll have all the workers we need to do so.
Now, is it a magic solution, a magic bullet, increase immigration, problem solved?
No, and actually we have 4 main recommendations we put in place. And what we're telling the Quebec government is that labor shortages in manufacturing has to become their priority. And there isn't only one solution. There are many solutions, but they have to consider all of them. Now, immigration is the first one. Clearly in the survey, manufacturers are telling us we need to increase immigration levels, but we also have to facilitate and accelerate the venue of foreign temporary workers. So we think about these people a lot that work in our fields, but manufacturing is a second sector in importance to welcome them. It isn't a long-term solution. It isn't the ideal solution, but it is a short-term solution. And right now, it's very difficult, especially for small and medium companies, to access this program. So this is the first thing. But the second thing we need to look into is increasing our productivity. So how can we accelerate the integration of new technologies in small and medium companies so that we can do more with less people? And this has been an issue for years. The government companies have been struggling, but it's one of the ways, if the Quebec government doesn't want to increase immigration levels, then they really have to do more to support the companies, once again, to increase productivity.
We're with Véronique Proulx, CEO of the MEQ. That's the organization that represents manufacturers and exporters here in Quebec. So, Véronique, I want to talk about what you just brought up, right? Because oftentimes when I speak to people in government and we talk about this issue, sometimes they say to me, well, the reason why groups like yours want more immigration is for cheap labor, and then they point the finger at manufacturers and say, you know what, instead of trying to get employees at minimum wage, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on making operations more efficient, on getting the technology in to increase efficiency, to automate more things. So Are you saying that you need help to do that? You need government funds, subsidies in order to bring in equipment, devices, and automation?
Well, there are two things, and I want to go back to the cheap labor that has often been mentioned in the media from the government. In manufacturing, the average wage is $27 an hour. So it's way above what we see in other sectors. And when we look in the different regions of Quebec, we'll see that the vacancy rate in manufacturing is higher than other sectors. So compensation is part of the issue, but it's not the only issue because we're already paying above. This being said, in the survey, we saw that 98% of manufacturers claim that they have vacant positions. So everyone's impacted. The small, the medium, and the larger companies who often offer very good compensations and salaries. And then when we look at where's the bulk of where we need people, it's between $20 and $29 an hour. So 50% of vacant positions are in that range, which isn't a bad wage, once again, compared to the average in Quebec.
And
so compensation is part of it, but it's not the only problem. Now, when we look at productivity, larger companies are investing to automate and put in robots year after year because they're always confronted to international competition. They have the resources, financial and human, to do these projects. But when you talk to a small and medium company, often they'll say they'll do custom products, so low volume, high mix. So they just can't put a robot on the production line and it fixes everything. So it's much more complicated than just saying invest. And this is why we're telling the Quebec government, you've been doing very good with the larger companies over the past 4 years. Now we have to zoom in on the small and medium companies, which is the bulk of our manufacturing in Quebec, and see how can we help them. How can we help them find the right technologies? How can we help them evaluate their return on investment? What specific funding do they need? So manufacturers are ready to do their part, but we need more support from the government because this is one of the important solutions that will help us get out of this situation.
Can I ask you if you've had conversations with your counterparts from the other provinces, the people that do what you do in Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, other provinces, and if there's something that's being done in other parts of Canada that we're not doing here that we could be doing?
Yes, of course. Within the larger companies, I would say that the Quebec government has been very helpful in supporting and putting in programs that do have an impact. And other provinces are actually looking at what the Quebec government has been doing because they've been doing very well. Now, when we look at SMEs, I can't say that in other provinces they are doing much better. So this is why this remains, there isn't a perfect solution. And I would say that in other provinces, they don't have immigration levels like we do. So it is easier, although it is more and more challenging, but it still remains easier to find workers than it is in Quebec, which once again becomes a barrier to investment.
And now, I've heard these, some businesses say, if they don't get help here, their solution will be to move operations outside of Quebec. Where will they go? Like where is the grass greener for Quebec companies to be able to manufacture things that they'd rather be doing right here at home?
Yeah, well, you're right. 3 out of 10 companies said that they're considering outsourcing or are moving abroad their production. And 3 out of 10 is enormous because once they leave the province, once they move their production, they don't necessarily come back. So that does concern us in terms of growth or even sustaining our manufacturing operations here within Quebec. Now, some companies have been looking at, for instance, Northern Africa. There are other countries, some are in Romania. So there are countries, Mexico as well, just to name a few, where you do have access to a large pool of talent and we're qualified people. And last week we were with Groupe Meloche who gave some media interviews. They are an SME in aerospace. And the HR person was saying, we put a posting here for a mechanic in Quebec. We might get 5 resumes if we're lucky, 5 or 10. When we go to Morocco, we get 500 qualified people who want to work on this. So the message is manufacturers want to keep their operations here in Quebec, but they need more talent. They need more people, qualified people as well. And this is why it brings us back to immigration.
Are you worried it's going to get worse?
Of course. We can see it month after month. The number of vacant positions are increasing. The Quebec government has shown a bit of interest perhaps to increase immigration levels. And what we're saying is we have a lot of foreign temporary workers that work across Quebec in the different regions. They're learning French. They're integrating. Sometimes they're here with their family. Some of them want to stay. If you're looking to increase immigration levels, start with them. Focus on these people because they are in the regions, they are in manufacturing, and they are working. And we should give them a fast track to permanent immigration first.
Véronique, fascinating discussion. I want to thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.